Back to Casuals Encounters, episode 16. I'm Leo Cooper from Leo Cooper MMA on YouTube. I'm with Will from Casuals Corner on Instagram, YouTube, all platforms. You can find us on our socials in the description. We're just going to jump straight into it. It was an interesting night of fight, so I've got to say, and I stand by my rule that it's always the cards that you don't expect, or that on paper don't have the firepower that always are the ones that are the most entertaining. And I think last night was sort of on that wavelength, but I think it was marred a little bit by the main event, particularly the refereeing, which I'm sure a lot of people felt strongly about. I wanted to know what you were feeling when that result was read out there. It's a long pause.
Because I didn't really think about it until you asked me, to be perfectly honest.
That not in the moment? Did that not even...
I did really think, I really thought I wouldn't be surprised if Alexa Grasso even wins this. It's just judges. That's my argument. That's my conversation. It's just judging. You really never know.
You can't normalise that.
No, of course you can't normalise it. But my point is, history tells us it's going to be sporadic. So therefore, my prediction is always sporadic. So therefore, I don't have a logical outcome with any fight. I genuinely don't. So I was a bit like, to be honest, when they gave the draw, my actual first thought was, how do you actually even get a draw? What do you do to get a draw? How does a draw work?
Do you know what the moment was? Anytime that Bruce Buffer takes more than about 10 seconds to walk in the octagon.
Yeah, you know it's dangerous.
You know some shitty stuff is going down. And that,
when he's got his cue card, when Bruce Buffer's got his cue card like that to an official,
and he's whispering,
and he goes split screen on the UFC broadcast, and you've got Bruce Buffer with a cue card like that. You know it's going to end badly, and it did.
Just can you explain to me if you play devil's advocate here, try and justify to me how you give that last round a 10-8, because I can't see an angle where it was competitive. It was a competitive round. Shevchenko was winning for about 3.5 minutes, if you ask me, and then it was down to the back take and the submission attempt, right? That's in the last minute and a half. That's a close round. Oh my God, it just gets me more mad when I think about it. I'm sick of it, man.
In truth,
I'm sick of it happening.
In truth, I'm thinking we could dive into the X and O's of this all day, but ultimately it's another conversation that comes back down to refereeing.
It's gonna happen.
However, what I will say is, I always say this. I do always say this because it's so true. Whenever it's a weird call from a judge or an official, especially when they're ringside, I do always wonder. I wonder what they saw. Because when you sit cage side to fights, sometimes you do genuinely see completely different fights. They just look completely different. You miss bits of action because there's pillars in the way. Sometimes there's angles that you can't see grappling exchanges. Sometimes, for whatever reason, you only see highlighted shots of a person. It just happens. It's the worst way to officiate a fight ever. And I actually think that the simplest fix to all this judges is not new judges or any new system or criteria or anything like that. It's the simple change of putting them in a room outside of the arena with noise and no commentary, sitting in a room with every angle that we get TV, because we get the best view. So why have we got the people that are actually dictating the decisions sitting cage side with the emotions, the crowd, the anticipation, the bad angles, the lack of comprehensive view that you get of the cage? It makes no sense to me. I actually don't think the blame should be going on the judges. I think the blame should be going on the people that decide to put them there, because it's such an easy fix, I believe, in the short term, to at least see a bit of difference. So are the people going to get more competent overnight? No. But can we stick them in a room with no commentary and good angles? We can do that. And I reckon there'll be a lot more consistency. In fact, I would almost guarantee there'd be more consistency.
No, I'm completely... That's actually the point. That's the point I was going to make. And I actually do have to give credit to Dominic Cruz, who I'm not particularly a huge fan of on commentary. I like his technical analysis, but personality-wise, I think he can be a bit snobbish, whatever. But I don't mind him. Great fighter, obviously, no disrespect to him there. But I have to give him a lot of credit for really... He was sort of not playing the sort of, the media game, if you will. He was willing to call out, those that needed calling out there on the broadcast when DC and John, well, I mean, it's not really John's job per se, but you know, to actually call these guys out and make them known as they deserve to be, because you know, fighters' careers are at stake here. This is a lot of money. It's life decisions. It's so much that goes into these camps and everything. So to have that taken away, I think is, you know, the guys who are responsible for that need to be held accountable. And Mike Bell in particular, because I will say his name.
Ooh.
Yeah, he needs to be fully held accountable. Yeah, he's
Ooh.
shaking in his boots
He's
there.
like, I will say his name. I was like, oh, steady.
Because we said it on our little podcast, but it is important, but it's more out of premise though, right? You know, their names do need to be known. These scorecards need to be publicized as they were, which is a nice change, because I think a lot of these guys got under the radar a little bit too much and gotten away with some really criminal decisions. So I'm glad this one's been a bit different. The outpour of sort of, you know, the response has been a bit of a different reaction than it usually has. So hopefully that sparks a change. Maybe I probably won't, because
That
we know how this
wasn't
game
the
is.
worst bit of officiating on that card either.
No, I know what you're gonna say, and I can't remember the two guys who were fighting. It was the Brazilian fella, which is one
Tyrese
of the worst stoppages I've ever seen.
wasn't
Like
great.
I think it's more position for those who weren't clued in here. I was on the prelims. There was a standing anaconda slash. I think it was an anaconda, right, or maybe a guillotine or a dance. I can't
It
particularly
was
remember.
like, it was sort of a
Standing choke,
standing
right?
dance, and it
Yeah,
looked as
standing.
if he was going to start to either continue as it just standing or maybe drop to the floor and wrap it up as an anaconda, but he stayed standing. And because of his frame, he didn't really have any leverage, you know? He didn't really have any
No,
sort of real grip. But in fairness, when you watch it back, it is a bad call. And he could have taken longer to make that decision, and he could have been more aware in that position, 100%. And I agree with that. And there's no dismissing it. However, you do watch the replay, and his arm, I know he's just relaxing it and putting it down, but it does look like it goes limp. So on the side of the referee, I do understand why he's done that in a very split decision, because it's easy for us to sit here, and I know that he should have known that position better. But if you do watch that arm go limp, you are talking split-second decisions in there, and he's
yeah, of
obviously
course.
jumped in the heat of the moment, and then he knows as well. He knows he's sitting there thinking, oh, there's no take me backs in this game, is there? Oh, there's no redos. And that's it. And like you said, a camp, double paycheck, time, sacrifices, time with family, kids, wives, it all goes out the window down to these split decisions. But the same that it is for the fighters, it's the same for the refs. So, yeah, it's a lot on
Yeah,
the
I
line.
actually, I tell you what it reminds me of. It reminds me of a bit of a throwback here: Ben Askren versus Robbie Lawler.
Yeah.
Um, that same sort of scenario, that arm just sagging down, and it's just that instant response, and the ref is like, right, he's unconscious, go, go, go,
Mm.
because obviously their fighters' safety is paramount. That's their job. They're there to protect the two fighters stepping in there. So I from a rest position, I can get it. I think it just thing is, you'd expect more in the premier promotion, don't you? I think you would. You know, this is $1 billion company. You know, this is the creme de la creme. You know, so you expect the highest of standards across every aspect. So I think when you get stuff like this, which happens so often, whether it's the refs or the judges, and I know they're an independent body, they're not part of the UFC, but it's just you'd expect more, wouldn't you? I think it's getting tiring that we see this so often. But away from that discourse, what did you actually think about the main event, particularly just performance wise? I thought I saw someone say this on Twitter that it's one of the best women's fights ever, and I'm really on that, because I loved it. I was really invested in that fight from the first minute to the last. I loved it. I thought it was a great performance.
I was so impressed by Valentina, to be perfectly honest. We know
Yeah,
she's
same.
good. We've seen her do incredible things for many years, title defenses, you name it, she's done it. But the fact that she came out with that hunger, that tenacity, and also she went a little bit more rudimental, a little bit more fundamental. She didn't move quite as much. She didn't move laterally quite as much. She's planting her feet a little bit more, actually sort of sat down on her shots. And we got to saw some of her Muay Thai and some of her boxing in the pocket, letting her just sit and slip and rip
It was really
combinations.
nice, wasn't it?
It was fun. And she was sharp. I didn't know how quick she was going to look, how hungry she was going to look. But that all went out the window because she went in there, dialed in. Alexa Grasso, to be fair to her, she done some really nice things. I think it was just an output thing a lot of the time. I think Alexa Grasso, when she was landing, she was doing
More
well.
power.
I just think it was an output. And I don't know whether she was a little bit worried about the takedown and overexerting herself because Chev was getting to the hips occasionally. And even though Alexa defended it well, she is dangerous and she did get her down.
Mm.
And obviously in the first fight that happened a lot. So I can understand why she was probably a little bit more hesitant on the feet. But skill for skill, yeah, as you said, that was probably one of the best women's fights we've seen.
It was
Islam
great, wasn't it?
Makhachev, Volkanovski. I heard them liking it too, which
Yeah, I can sort of.
yeah.
I can see that. I can see that. It was for me. It was really a case of like Valentina rolling back the years a little bit. I think that was really shades of fights against
She's so quick.
Carmouche and Shukagan and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I know, but I think the age is definitely still catching up a little bit, right? I think we can still see that reaction time maybe a little bit off,
For sure, but I thought
stuff
it
like
was going to
that.
be
Yeah,
slower, to be perfectly honest. I really did. She's look how light she is. And she's what, 34 years of age? How old is she? 36?
35 now.
She's 35.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about going into the fight. I was worried the speed wasn't going to be there, and I think the reaction time clearly was a factor. I mean, she got clipped there, sort of on the exit in the second round when she got dropped. I think that was clearly a sign of that. I don't think Valentina
Do
of
you
old would have
think
got
so
caught by
though?
that.
Or is
I
that a
mean,
fact of she's just gone out into the rain and she's got a little bit wet? 5-round fight. You're going to
maybe.
get clipped.
Well, it's fine margins, isn't it?
True.
If you ask me, I don't think the Valentina who won the belt would have got caught by that shot. And that's no disrespect to her. It's just how it is. It's the age catching up. But the fact she still looks so good, she looked better in her lot than she did in her last two fights, and that shows she's still got that drive and that hunger even at her age. And I think really she still is on borrowed time in this game. I don't think she's got much left in her, maybe a couple years, because it will catch up to her as it is already. We're seeing that happen very gradually. It's little things, but they add up, right? And you can't stay at the top of the game for long with those sort of weaknesses. But I'm glad she's really putting everything into her performances, and I think it is a treat every time we get to see her fight because she is. I've said it for a long time. To me, one of the most, if not the most technical fighter in the sport. So yeah, I was very impressed. Even with the result not going the way I thought it should have gone, I think it was pretty clear Valentina 3-2. You could argue either way. I get it, but for me that was where I was leaning towards. Yeah, it
I
was a
thought she
great
was going
fight,
to get a hand raised, to
irrespective of
be
the result.
perfectly honest. I
Yeah,
thought she was going to get a hand raised.
that seemed to be the consensus, didn't it?
Okay, mate?
Yeah, I was really. I mean, we were talking, briefly about very high on the Holland train, and I
Still
was
am.
with that as well. Yeah, still completely am. I think it's just I I had to give him so much credit just before we just really delve into it. His chin is incredible, right? I think that's something a lot of people really don't appreciate is how, how good he's able to either mask that pain or just roll with the shots in general. He's very. It's almost his lengthy frame really sort of lends that. It really helps him out in that regard because he's able to sort of bend and roll with these shots a
Mm,
lot better than most guys do. He has that sort of palm to chin sort of defense.
little
He
bit
sticks his
Philly
jab out.
showish.
Yeah, it's very yeah, and he was able to do really well in just whenever he got to the cage, just rolling with those shots and then circling back out. But I think it was really a case of just JDM being extremely clinical. I think his boxing was just the best we've ever seen it. I think there was a bit of a lot of questions in this fight going into it, considering how poor JDM's last fight was in terms of performance. He wasn't as good as I think
I
many
think it was
people thought he was going to
poor.
be. Well, I mean, it was his stand. It wasn't as high of a standard as his other fights. I think is fair to say, if you ask me.
Yeah,
And
poor.
it was a
It's
really good
strong.
return. Yeah, okay, yeah, it was a really good return to form, right? I think it was a really disciplined striking
Yeah,
performance.
you're right there.
I
Discipline's a good
yeah,
word.
I would say though, I think seeing that matchup, you do wonder how he does against a proper wrestler. I think that's what we all want to see, and I don't know who you'd match up against because in particular in that division, I think he's still teetering on that top 15. Starting to really climb into the top 10 now.
Well, that would make him
Um,
around 13, his
I'd
ranking.
like Gilbert Burns. I know it's a little bit far fetched now,
Oh,
but I
that's
quite
a
like
fun
that fight.
fight.
That's a good one, isn't it?
That is a fun fight. That is a fun fight. And he's struggling to get fights because he's not fun to, because he's going to be in your face. He's going to stand in the pocket. He's going to be able to switch stances. He's going to go to the body. He's going to go body head. He's going to throw nasty hooks, tight boxing, good defense, not easy to hit. He's not fun. He's not fun to be in there with. He's just not. He throws heavy elbows. His takedown defense is getting better. Don't forget, he is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He is very good on the ground. He's got submission threats. He's just very talented, JDM. And coming into this fight, to be perfectly honest, I've never bet against Kevin Holland ever, I don't think, since I've started watching the sport. I don't think I have. And I've sung JDM's praises literally since I first watched him throw a left hook to the body on Dana White's Contender Series. And it was
Money.
love at first sight against Andre Lusa. Honestly, was an incredible fight as well. Andre Lusa as well, doing incredible things in the welterweight division. That winner's aged like fine wine. But I think ultimately it came down to the fact, if we want to be super simple about it, it was a boxing fight in 4-ounce gloves, and there's not going to be many people at 170 pounds that are going to be able to strictly outbox JDM. And as good as a striker as Kevin Holland is, and still at times defensively very, very sound, offensively
Both guys,
good,
actually.
but I think when it came to just putting together consistent combinations and landing consistently, JDM just edged it there. And it wasn't a landslide either way, to be perfectly honest. It was a very competitive fight.
Yeah.
I think it was just a boxing match in 4-ounce gloves, like I said, and I don't think many people are going to win that.
To me, that's the problem, though. Do you not think? I think using kicks, there's so much more opportunity for him for Kevin to use his range. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. For Kevin Holland, if it's going to look like just a boxing match, it's going to be hard to win against someone like JDM. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, of course. And I think just not using as much kicks as he should have done, I think is what was a bit of a glaring weakness there. I think there was a good
kick
path
down
to
the
victory.
middle, that teep that he was landing was so nice. And there was
More
no
of it,
threat.
right?
Yeah, there was no threat of the takedown from JDM. You know he didn't want to take you down. Kevin Holland knows he's got a crazy guard. He knows he can. No one's going to want to be down in it. No one wants to be in Kevin Holland's guard because we've seen him knock out JDS. We've seen him submit. He can throw up omoplatas. JDS, sorry. Yeah,
No, you're good.
Close enough. Brazilian and good, basically. That's all you need to know. But my point is, the takedown threat wasn't there. So I think they could have definitely let his kicks go a little bit more. And then, especially when you start going high with those kicks a lot more, first of all, you have to make them defend, and then you get to beat up their arms. So if you know you're coming against a boxer, if you can beat up the arms and at least take away a lot of the power, yeah, I think I would have liked to see more kicks from Kevin Holland. That's the only thing I would say.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's one of those cases where obviously JDM's certainly not going to lose stock, but I think neither's Kevin really in that fight.
No.
I think there's no shame in losing to a
You'll
guy like
forget
JDM.
who wins that. I promise you.
You think? Nah,
100%.
I don't know about that one.
In 2 years' time, you'll almost forget who won there.
Yeah.
I promise you. It happens with a lot of Kevin Holland's fights because he rarely loses. The only time he's lost is Chimaev, and that was very nuanced anyway because of the crazy circumstances. But when you watch him lose, he's not getting knocked out. He's not getting ground and pounded to death. He just isn't. He's usually either getting just edged out on points or maybe controlled a bit at a weight class that's too big for him. He doesn't lose, if that makes sense.
He never does. I think, well, I mean...
Nate Diaz a little bit.
I think it's his personality, isn't it? It's his charisma, the way he fights. Yeah, again, as you said, Nate Diaz is a perfect comparison
20 times in 5 years.
Seriously?
That's crazy volume.
20 fights?
In 5 years.
Jesus Christ. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like he's in the cage every bloody week, doesn't it? Who was his last fight? It wasn't against Wonderboy, was it? Did he have one in between? Chiesa, of course, yeah. That was only that wasn't even that long ago. Yeah, you're right. That is pretty crazy. What did you I was quite pleasantly surprised by Raul Rosas Jr. I thought I saw those odds and I was like, they're a little bit too high they're a little bit too wild for my liking. I quite
was
like
he favourite?
He was a massive favourite.
Yeah.
He was minus 750 to win.
Because he's skilled,
and I was like,
man.
He is. But I was like, that's a bit absurd for a kid that's only 18.
What was he, 750?
Minus 750.
That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. So I was like,
that's crazy though. That's where the money was going.
And
wow.
Mitchell's. I think Mitchell's. I thought before this fight, I thought he was. He lost his last fight, maybe gave up against was it Cody Saman he fought just recently.
He looks like Terence McKinney and sounds like Terence McKinney and has Terence McKinney's name and has Terence McKinney's teeth and hair and everything. He is Terence McKinney.
Yeah, something like that. But it was the grappling that was the problem with him. Obviously, the UFC clearly setting up springboarding Rosas, right, for a victory here, and that's clearly probably the outcome that they expected and they got. I wasn't sure about those odds, and I thought Mitchell maybe could pull off an upset, but I have to say, really impressed by Raul Rosas Jr. I mean, I saw someone say on Twitter that he's been 18 for 3 years, and that just made me laugh because it kind of feels like but it's a testament to how long he's sort of cultivated a following and been in the UFC in such a short amount of time. But it feels like he's been here for ages, right? And I think that shows you that he's doing all the right things, even if he did lose in his last fight. So really impressed by him. That knockout, he's got that power. It shows that he's
Yeah.
got it. Very impressed, I gotta say. So quick, under a minute that finish. Which I love those quick round one knockouts. Who doesn't? So we'll see where he goes from here. I think it's important that the UFC really they do what they did with Sean O'Malley, but even more so. I think they really need to take him slow. Cater to him, build him up slowly, build that hype, and as he sort of begins to fill out his frame, gather more experience inside the cage, we'll start to see a different level. And hopefully down the line, who knows? It's a wild game. We'll see him with a belt. Who knows?
I always say it, but I always remember watching Raul Rosas Jr. and his brother, I believe, compete on a grappling competition when they were about 15, and they walked out
Seriously?
and they just had this it factor. They just had this it factor. And he was going out 15, 16 years of age, no gi jiu-jitsu, going and doing crazy things to high-level black belts, fully grown men, much bigger than himself. And he had this charisma, he had this personality. He didn't look like everyone else. He didn't sound like everyone else, but he had an energy about him. And he does bring that into the cage and he brings that into the UFC. And when you have a look at what he's doing, 18 years of age, I know we always say it, but that is insane. That is insane. The fact
That
that
is crazy.
one person on the left is going to pick up their failed A-level results and the person on the right is fighting in the
That's what I was about
deepest
to go to.
combat division in the world, bar none. He's going in there every single 3-4 months, if you like, against the strongest, toughest, most skilled killers in the world and competing. And he's going out there, and obviously we know how good his grappling is. Backs against the wall, all of this hate, noise, and build up online. Crazy odds in his favour, massive card, Mexican home advantage. By the way, he's a superstar on Instagram already. He's got about 400,000 followers. And there's all this pressure and all this attention on him. And he goes out and does that in under, what, 2 minutes?
It was under a minute.
It,
I'm pretty sure it was under a minute, right?
it's a
Maybe
mindset.
I'm wrong. Maybe it was too. But
It's a
still,
mindset.
yeah.
It's not a skill set with Raul Rosas Jr. It's a mindset that he has for competition that he can just go out and have this freedom and this comfort in a competitive stunt like that. People shouldn't be 18 years of age. You should be overthinking it and you're thinking of all these crazy outcomes and you're nervous and you're second guessing yourself. Man, that was so impressive. Like, genuinely, that
It
was
really
so,
was.
it was so
Imagine
impressive.
putting yourself in your shoes at 18, thinking you could do that. No one else doing that. It's pretty impressive when you really try and put himself in your shoes. Imagine yourself when you were 18 and stepping into like an octagon and millions of people watching online and in person, and it's just like how are you doing that at that age? It's pretty damn incredible, I gotta say. And that's exciting. That's what's so exciting about it, because he's only 18. There's so much
12
time left
years
to level
until
up.
about his
I think
prime.
of I think of guys like Jake Matthews in particular, he's been in the UFC since he was
True.
about 19. And I've always said he can go really far. I think he's had the skill set to really do it. And the more experience he gets, I think he's improving and improving. Still struggle to find that consistency.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think he's had that athleticism to really go there. And hopefully he surpasses that Raul Rosas I'm talking about here. I think he can. It's just too early to say, isn't it? But everyone loves a sort of come up success story. You can't not enjoy something like that. It's in our nature to root for it. So I wish him the best. I like the unbridled confidence he brings. He knows what he can do, and he's not ashamed to really put that out. There's something, I wouldn't say it's new. It's not refreshing in particular, but
It is
it's
refreshing, I
entertaining
think.
from a kid who's so young to come out like that on the mic is impressive for sure.
Do you know what a success story is?
Leon Edwards.
This iced coffee. Look at this
Another
new
one. I've
cup that
actually
I'm
been on a
sporting
tee.
as well, by the way.
What is that?
This is
It's very
a
tall.
double-layered thermal iced coffee cup. And in this iced coffee today, we have Harrogate ground coffee. And then
Lovely.
we have
Chocolate? Bit of chocolate in there?
a different level today. A Devon chocolate milk.
Interesting.
Finished with oat milk. And I
We're in the science
was
now,
never
man.
one for alternative milks because I'm a big fan of sauce straight from the teat. However, oat milk's actually really nice. I actually think it's super nice.
It's not bad, isn't it?
It's actually
It's not my first
tasty.
pick,
I
but
don't
it's not bad.
understand how you can have something that's 99% water and 1% oat and have it so tasty. It doesn't make sense to me. I can't wrap my head around it. I've had almond before, the worst. The worst.
You're not big on it.
I thought it was going to be creamy and delicious and sort of luxurious. And I'd heard all these songs about it. I'd heard all these new health kicks about it. It'd been in all of this. I had it for the first time. I thought, this is terrible. This is basically nut water. This is nut water. This is the worst. This is not almond
I mean, it
milk.
is, yeah.
How can they call it almond milk? It's absolutely preposterous. But anyway,
I'm a semi-skimmed man.
yeah, same.
Personally.
I'm usually a gold top. But oat milk gives a creamier taste to things like iced coffees than normal milk does. Can't get my head around
I might
it.
have to try it next time I get one. You know,
No,
I might have to ask
genuinely,
for the oat milk.
the flavour level, because I'm a freak as well, I'm a weirdo. I'm the kid that when he was younger, I used to have a few pints of milk when I got home from school all the time.
No, mate. Milk's class.
Is that not weird?
I mean, I don't know about having a few
I'd
pints.
have
I wouldn't
8
go that
slices
far.
of toast.
That's fucking wild.
I'd have 8 slices
Yeah,
of
no,
toast
I'm not. You've lost me on there. You've lost me there.
and 3 pints of milk.
Seriously,
Most days when I was probably
mate.
a teenager.
What are you doing for cereal though? What's that all about?
What am I doing for cereal?
Yeah, where's the milk going then? You should
wouldn't
get 3
have-
pints of milk a day. Where's the milk for the cereal?
More. Sometimes I'd have about 5 pints of milk a day. I'm not even joking.
Seriously.
Some days, not all
I
the
love
da-
it, to be fair.
not
but
all the
I
time.
would never go that far.
Not now either. Not now. I want to preface that. Not now. When I was
Okay.
young, when I'm sort of about
okay.
12 years old or something, 13 years of age, coming home from school, just super hungry, 8 slices of toast, butter, a few
8?
pints of milk, or 6.
What's your appetite, mate?
6 or something.
That's nuts.
Grown boy.
You've completely lost me
Teenager.
there. I was more of a just chocolate, just anything.
What was your
chocolate.
post-school snack? What was your go-to post-school
mate,
snack?
I mean, if I could, I'd always pick Jaffa cakes. Then and now. I mean, if we have any people in the US watching, you might not know
How
what
about the
Jaffa cakes are.
minis?
But
You like the minis?
what Jaffa cake?
Mini Jaffa cakes. The Jaffa Cake McVitie bars.
Yeah, they're not bad. Have you tried
They're
the
good.
the
They're
donut
good.
ones? They're crap. They're
Yeah,
crap.
I have.
They're
I have.
terrible, sickly. Yeah, if anyone who doesn't know what Jaffa cakes are, they're basically like little cakes, and they are cakes, not biscuits. I don't want to hear it.
They're
little
in America,
mini sponge
I
cakes.
believe.
Are they in America now?
I think that's where there was a
really?
lawsuit over whether they were a cake or a biscuit.
Oh,
That's
well,
how
they got like a
Americans
little
spend
orange
their time.
jelly in the middle, covered in chocolate. But
So that was your
they are
that was
the
your
greatest
go-to.
invention. But they still are. They're the greatest invention mankind has ever brought to the table.
What else would it? What would a packed lunch look like for you at school?
Oh, I was always a school dinner guy, to be honest. I'd eat the school shit, you know.
What was the school dinners like?
Overcooked pasta in a pot. That tend to be what it
Is
was.
this secondary school?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah. What did they look like? What did they look like? I'm intrigued.
What?
Your
What?
secondary school.
You're trying to find what the food or
Mm.
like?
Mm.
It was just like you had like these little black pots, and they just dumped loads of slop in it.
What was
And
the
then on
best thing they
Friday,
done?
It's Fridays, mate. It's sausage and chips, mate. All day.
That's
It would always be
weak.
or fish.
That's
Or
weak.
fish.
That's
And chips.
weak. That's no creativity.
That's a staple. That's a school staple.
It
mate.
is a school, but that's what I'm saying. It's weak. We used to
I didn't mind
actually.
it. I used to go out for lunch anyway, to be honest. Like sixth form and all that.
I can't. Oh, what we used to do, we used to go big. We used to do the Domino's lunchtime deal, which was
Rogue.
no, large pizza and garlic dip. So it was a large one topping pizza. So we used to get pepperoni passion,
Split
large
it up.
pepperoni passion,
Okay.
large garlic dip, $6.99.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so we
Well,
used
you
to.
wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get that these days.
No, I wouldn't.
$6.90. No. I mean just $6.99 for a large
I
pizza.
mean Domino's. I don't really eat No,
I
I
mean,
wouldn't
no, I
eat
still eat
Domino's
that.
anymore,
I'm
to
not
be
really,
fair.
I'm not really a takeaway pizza man, personally.
I've tried to dial in my health a lot more, to be perfectly honest. I've tried to actually just level up my health and try and get a healthy heart and try and do some cardio and running and
Yeah,
physical
still
exercise.
need to get back on that train,
How much
which
do
we will.
you reckon, a week?
I
I'm not
mean,
judging, I'm just
at
intrigued
uni,
because
I
I
was
went from nothing.
exercising. I mean, not
No, no,
now. I
no,
mean, I haven't
not
done it for a
uni,
while.
now.
Yeah, now, yeah,
Not the
not
glory
enough,
days.
none, barely any. I mean, yeah, not much.
What's a
I'm
week look like?
married to the grind, mate. That's what it is.
What does the week look
No, no,
like?
no.
Come on, I'm
I'm
intrigued.
procrastinating. It's pretty boring, to be honest. I mean, weekends I tend to do stuff with my mates and all that.
Exercise-wise, I'm
Exercise
talking.
zilch, mate. Seriously. I mean, it's not looking good, and that's on me because I know
Yeah.
I know how much I enjoy it, which is I'm just putting it off. And
That
I
will
am.
improve your workflow though.
Of course, yeah, of course, Bill. And I'm looking at places right now. I'm pretty set on a gym, which I'm gonna go to a trial session either next week or this week. I'm
Can't
not
we
sure. I
go
need to
for a
look at the
little walk
schedule.
maybe?
Oh no, I mean I do that. No, I
Oh,
take my dog
okay.
out and all that. Yeah, I'm not. It's not 0-0.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
that's what I thought.
you know.
That's why I asked, and you said
Yeah, I
0.
mean, yeah. To be fair, when I say zero, I went to me when I mean zero, I mean zero means zero in terms of no external like proper exercise. Like I'm not actively because I don't think of walking my dog as exercise, even though it technically is. You know what I mean? It's just something you do.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, obviously that will change, and I know that will improve me personally because, of course, it will. It's exercise, helps the body and the mind, Um, so that's something to get back into. Looking forward to it.
How's the
There's
Wim
a
Hof
couple of
thing
places I'm
going?
looking at. Yeah, I did it. Not yesterday, the night before yesterday.
Nice.
I'm gonna do it again tonight. I don't know if you've been keeping up with it, but it's great, man. I love it. Well, actually, yeah, that's a good point of discussion actually because we didn't really fully touch on it in terms of on a podcast episode in terms of how you've felt doing it. I was curious to know your proper full in depth sort of reaction to
Well,
it.
in truth, I've only done it twice since, so I'm going to make a more concerted effort to do it more consistently this week. So I've started off with 2 a week, so I'm going to try and get maybe at least 3 in this week. I enjoy the feeling of being conscious of your breathing to the point of getting rid of that stale staticness that you get in
Yeah,
your
no,
body
I'm with
built
you.
up sitting at a desk or lying on your bed or not moving enough. You get this sort of static energy and this sort of, it's hard to describe. It's not a tangible
It's weird, isn't
thing,
it?
but you just need to sort of exude it. You need to breathe it out. You need to flush it out. And it's almost, that's what it is. It's almost flushing out toxins from your body. And it sounds a bit zany and it sounds a bit sort of hippie when you're doing it and when you're thinking
Yeah.
about it, but it's really transactional. You really do feel it quite instantly. So I do enjoy it. I have no shame in that. I'm definitely.
It's something that you enjoy it more and you get more out of it the more you do it. And I think the benefit, do it after you do a workout or something like that, and you'll really, really feel it. I think that's the best for me. That's the best time to do it. That or before sleep, but that is the best time to do it.
Are
Right
you
after you exercise as recovery.
are you lifting at the moment?
No, I'm not. I'm not. I did back in the day
You need to
when
get
I
some
did used to
lifts
go
in.
gym. I just not
Just
really.
resistance training. Don't need to
Yeah,
body
I
build.
did enjoy it. I enjoyed doing bench and that. It was never really.
You
But
ain't even
it
got to
was.
do that. Just do anything with resistance that you enjoy. Just for your bones, your muscles, your joints, especially jujitsu and things like that. Is
Of course,
obviously a
yeah.
lot of people. I hear it a lot in the gym. A lot of people do those forms of exercise and that they're always good. And then I get a lot of people that say to me, "Oh yeah, but I don't have to lift because I do that." It's like, no, it's not an aesthetic thing. It's more of a joint health. It's just preventing offset things like down the line, the
Yeah.
osteoporosis of
Yeah.
the world and whatnot. But saying that, I'm a million miles off where I need to be with it all for sure. I've taken a small step of buying a new set of weights. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and bought a set of weights, bigger set. So now I've stacked out a bar. I've got a little bar and I've got
Nice.
a couple of dumbbells. And I've really got to the point where I just try and make it as frictionless as possible to the point of ever since I bought those weights, which was about 2 months ago, I've not changed the weights once. And I've just gone into
You've worked towards that. Yeah.
I've just left them. No, I've just left them on there. and I've just moved the bar or the dumbbells in sporadic ways for sporadic reps and time and all those things. I've just got in, moved the weight and left, and I've not overthought it or overcomplicated it, because sometimes when you start adding those hurdles and those mental barriers, that's where you start
then you start procrastinating
you start
and
giving more friction to the task, and you don't need it. Whereas before, I used to have very tailored plans, work out towards things. I would be very periodic and systematic with how I do my workouts. But now I just know, right, we just need to get in. Let's not overcomplicate it. And I'm just flipping going in there and getting it done. But
I will say, you know that
it's
I
what
don't know
it
if you
is.
get that same when you do the Wim Hof thing. There's that
Tingles.
really the tingles, isn't it?
You said it. Yeah,
I
you said
love
about
it.
it.
Yeah, the shiver. It's the weird sort of.
I didn't get
I
it, I
don't.
don't think.
You don't get it.
I don't
You
think
can
I did.
feel it going through your body, and I love it. And I'm not exaggerating. There, a lot of people,
No,
when they
I
hear stuff like
understand.
this, and they think it's all a bit of this sort of, oh, it's a load of rubbish. And I'm quite a bit of a skeptic when it comes to that sort of thing. But the way I see it, if you feel like it does something for you, then what's the harm in that? And I know there has been science to back that sort of stuff up. And I personally, for me, it works on me recovery wise, and it has done in the past. But I love that feeling it gives, that sort of shivery tingle feeling. You go down, and I love it. It's almost like I guess I can really sort of compare it to weight training in a weird way, in the sense that
No,
I like
100% agree.
I like the achievement of it's like a personal thing, being able to go for longer and getting better at something and improving at it. And I can see the same thing with moving up to heavier weight on a bench or
Yeah.
something like that. And stuff like that. And
Yoga.
like, yeah, I know you were talking about that. That's something I need to.
Mate,
I
it'll
never
change your
given it a proper
life.
go.
It will change
Never
your
done it.
life. It's such a
And it's
cult.
always I think there's yeah, I think there's always been a bit of a stigma around it. That it's like it's like you're either like a part of a middle-aged mum cult, yoga cult. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what the truth is when I say I do yoga?
Hit me with it.
I just cock my leg up on random heights with inanimate objects and just make a concerted effort to stretch and breathe into positions deeply more in my life. That's what I actually do.
Okay.
If I'm sitting on my bed, I'll try and get some hip stretches in, or if I'm listening to a podcast, maybe I'll do some cat cows. If I'm doing anything passively where I can stretch, I'll just try and stretch, whether it's my hamstrings, whatever it may be. And I just try and entwine those small pieces of mobility work just into my daily life. Now, mine was a lot worse than the average person's going to be, so people aren't going to have it as bad as I did. But I doubt there's anyone out there that couldn't benefit from being more mobile. So,
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of stretching when I was training at uni. We did a lot of stretches before and after, and I'd always quite like testing my flexibility a little bit, just bringing myself into that sort of area, because you do need to be in a certain sort of mindset and sort of I want to call it like a mode, I guess, in your brain. You need to sort of switch on when you step on the mat. I feel like you have to activate a certain part of you
yeah,
that's
it's
not
still a
never on
combat
apart from
setting.
there. Yeah, exactly. So I think the stretching sort of helps you ease into that, helps you relax in it, which is a big part of it. And it helps you just learn your flexibility as well. I realize my pros and cons, if you will, of which my limbs have a good sort of flexibility and which definitely don't.
What doesn't?
My arms,
Where are
not
you
at all.
most
Actually, no,
rigid, would you
they
say, in your
kind of
body?
are. It's a weird. I'm generally pretty flexible, but
Yeah.
like not like crazy. I'll give you just a quick story. My flatmate from last year, uh he is the most flexible guy. But he's a big dude, like pretty heavy as well. Goes to the gym a lot. He can put his leg behind his head,
My
and I was
mate's
like,
the
that is
same. My mate's
mental. I don't know
120
how you
kilos and he
do
can do
that.
that.
Yeah, I that blows my mind. I can't do that, but I'd still say I'm pretty flexible. Like my legs I'm pretty flexible in my legs. Arms not as much though. I get absolutely rinsed by Kimuras and Americanas.
I remember
Um,
the fact you said Kimura there is I went to get something under my bed one day, and my mattress is it's not super new, but it's quite fresh in regards to it's still very firm. So it's super
yeah.
heavy, and there's no flex or bend or give in it. So it's a big double mattress. It's very heavy, and there's no give. So I've peeled it back to stick my hands through the slat to pull something out from under the bed. And as I've done that, I've stuck my hand through, and the mattress has slammed down and got me here, and it's there was this second, this 0.8
Mate, you're getting subbed by
seconds
your mattress.
where I laughed, and then the next 0.2 was, oh, my arm's gonna snap. My arm was
Shit.
legitimately actually snapping because my shoulder joint and my elbows, they're better now, but they are not mobile. So where it
Oh
was
mate,
so
if we ever
heavy,
spar, I'm keeping that. I'm noting that down. If we ever
I'm
have a roll,
improving them,
I'm
mate.
remembering it.
Don't you worry, I'm improving day by day. I'm anticipating to be a well-oiled professional athlete in 14 months. I believe
That's what you want.
in 14 months my conditioning, at least sort of, I don't know in what facet. I don't know. I can't tell you whether it's going to be aerobic, muscular injury. I don't know. Is going to be of a good professional standard in 14 months, I would say.
That's a good goal to set. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I mean,
I was on the
I
air
hope you
dying
get there.
this week.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. I just thought, right, I'm just gonna start training harder. I'm just gonna start going harder and getting fitter and trying to get my heart rate
Combining
as low
that,
as I can.
combining that with jujitsu, that is like not something I do because I don't enjoy the gym enough to do that, and it's just a personal thing. It's
What
not
do
like I
you
don't like
enjoy?
exercise. It's I
Because I
love
don't enjoy
jujitsu.
that.
I don't. I just for me, what you don't enjoy weightlifting or weight
Not
training?
anymore. Hate it. I literally hate it the most out of anything. I used to love it. I've been through every cycle of weight training ever. I've gone from never doing it to loving it, like doing it every single day, living, breathing it, to detesting it and not wanting to go to the gym ever and doing one rep and leaving the gym. And I kept doing that. I kept going in the gym, doing a rep, leaving, set, leave, 2 sets, leave. And I'd do it until I just built it up to 20 minutes. I was like, right, because I knew I had to. I know I have to do it. I know there's no choice. I know mentally, physically, spiritually, I have to do that difficult workout. I have to
It's a
improve
net
my
positive.
body. Yeah, it's net positive all round. And
Yeah.
for my confidence, like people sometimes are scared as well to say this point, but it's true. It's like, yeah, we can sit about the physical and the mental. We can talk about all that, but it's like it's a confidence thing at the end of the day. When you look in the mirror and you're in better shape, you're in better condition, your skin looks
Yeah, I agree.
healthier, your life is better. You perform better. You operate better. Your conversations have more confidence. You have more energy. You have more magnetism when you speak to people and you don't even realize it. So that's a big point for me that people don't talk about because it seems like just a vanity metric, but it's not. It's more than that. So yeah, I don't know. I think I just need it. So I hate it, but I know that I have to get it done.
You're so too far in as well that like stopping would be such a negative,
And also,
impact, wasn't it? So
and
I get it. I get it.
and to be perfectly honest, it's very cliche, but the reason that when people used to say to me when I was in the gym, how do you stay so consistent? How do you stay so disciplined? It took a lot of conversations in that world. It took a lot of iterations of the same conversation to understand that ultimately, I mean, anything derives down to this, but definitely fitness. It comes down to the cliche of if the pain of staying the same is not greater than the pain of change, then you will just continue as you are. And for me, in the fitness space, I used to literally, not from a healthy place at all, from a very unhealthy place, used to wake up and genuinely detest the way I look, so much so that I would do anything to change it. So I would hit my protein goals, I would track my calories, I would go to the gym 5 times a day because the pain of that reality was harsher than the pain of that. So it was so easy to me. That's why sometimes when people used to say back in the day, oh, how do you say discipline? I would never say that, but I used to just want to say in my head, well, you just don't want to change enough. And that's not a bad thing as well, by the way. People just think that's a necessarily bad thing, but sometimes that's actually a good thing. And sometimes it's just the point of understanding, right, okay, I need to do a bit of resistance training to stay healthy, understand how to keep in shape, and that's it. I don't need to be a pro bodybuilder. So I'm going on a rant,
Yeah.
but
No, no, no. I'm completely following you. I think it's a dangerous thing. I think it can be. I mean, what you're saying about you detested the way you looked and you wanted to do anything to
that's where
change
it
that. I think
stemmed
for a lot
from.
of people, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people that can be a really dangerous thing. But I think the way you've managed to, I mean, from the way I'm seeing it, the way you're saying it is sort of turn that and evolve that into a positive mindset and routine
Well, you've only
of
got two
doing
choices,
things.
don't you? You've got two choices, and I think a lot of people believe that they have to have pleasure as the thing that pushes them. So they have to love the gym to be able to get fitter. But the truth of it, sometimes you just have to let the other thing fuel you. The fact that you hate it fuel you. The fact you hate how you look, not a positive, and it's definitely not
No, I
necessarily
get it. You need
healthy.
a bit of that, right?
But if
You
that's
do.
what your fuel's going to be, then that's what your fuel's going to be. Because guess what? It's not always going to be a passion. It's not always going to be, you're not always going to be fueled by passion and desire and lust to do a particular task. So sometimes you have to be fueled with whatever you have at your disposal. And if it's a despise and detesting mindset for your own physical physique, it's certainly not a healthy way to start, but it's a way to start, and it's
You're
better than
starting.
not.
Yeah. I mean, it is any effort in that regard is better than nothing. I think it is because you take one step, towards that, being in a better shape physically and or mentally. That is a net positive. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're
It's
working
true.
towards that, it's always going to be a positive. And I think there's something kind of comforting in that. I find that in jiu-jitsu because there's days that even I didn't want to do it or I don't want to train. I was like, I'd wake up, I'm like, geez, I just would do anything. And sometimes that might be an anxiety thing or it would
Mm.
be just a lazy thing, I just didn't want to, or it'd be absolutely raining outside, freezing cold, and have to trek to, the studio where we were training. But I knew that I was like, I know that I'm gonna feel so much better after I do this, and even whether I have a good session or a bad session, I'm gonna feel better afterwards than if I didn't do it, and that would always be my motivation. The bottom line, if 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 that was everything else failed, that was like the last stand, right? It was like,
Mm.
okay, but you're gonna feel great, so go anyway, and I'd always end up going. I think I very rarely ever really missed a session that I told myself that I was scheduled to go to. Do you know what I mean? I'd mentally told myself, right, these days you're going. I don't think I really ever missed those sessions out of just being lazy or procrastinating.
Because that's the thing. Once you build in that baseline, your baseline becomes a subconscious action. And this is what people don't realize. People try and start off as shooting the game winning shot as Michael Jordan, but they don't want to go in the gym and shoot free throws. That's just how it is.
Same with YouTube, isn't it? It's the same with
Of
YouTube.
course, it's the same with most things. That's what it's going to come
Yeah.
down to. But as you said there, when you set that baseline of, right, okay, I'm definitely going to go on Monday. Every Monday, I'm going to make sure I'm there. Gi grappling, I'm there. Then it's, okay, every Monday and Tuesday. And then what happens is when you just set your baseline and your subconscious just gets drummed into setting your mindset and your days around, right, Monday and Thursday, we do jiu-jitsu. And then you can build off of that or at least keep it at that line. But it's the classic of what everyone tries to do of, right, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu. Okay, I'm going to have to go 3-4 times a week, every week, miss a session, I'm done. I'm toast. I guess it's just trying to keep it sustainable, isn't it, really? How do we keep this sustainable so we don't
Have you found
implode?
a way to make that sustainable in jiu-jitsu terms? Have you? Because I know you
Yeah,
said you were looking at.
I have.
I actually, speaking of that, last week, because this didn't air because it was so annoying because we had such a good conversation for the last 40 minutes of our episode last week, and it just did not want to render Will's side of the recording, which sucks. So
I've
we were
realised
talking
that
about.
it
Was that
has.
because of your phone?
Yeah, it has. I've just realised this as you said that. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Sorry, as you were.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. So we were having a really good discussion about. I mean, I really actually let you say this, but I'll just give a quick brief rundown.
No,
That Will
go
was
on.
trying to run into, train for, was it 2 months? You said, and then go straight into a jujitsu competition.
This isn't
With
from
only
today.
2 months
I do
experience.
want to say
No, of
that.
course not from today. Yeah, yeah, no, not from today. This is something we talked about last week about you
100%.
going
I've
into,
already
and I
game
was
planned it.
wondering.
I
I
know exactly what I'm going to do.
hit me with it. What is the game? What in terms of the comp or in terms of how the whole
No, just
thing? Like,
how I want to structure my knowledge and game for learning jiu-jitsu.
yeah, okay. Well, why don't you run that down then? I can clear you're biting at it. You really want to.
No. I'm just
I
laughing
want to
because
hear it.
I'm just thinking like, no, it's nothing. It's nothing. There's no master plan. It's just I had just been thinking about it. That's why I was laughing. because I was
Have
talking
you
to
have
my
you taken
friend.
the steps? Was my
I,
was my was my
I've
question
been
really?
talking to my friend about how I'd go about it, and he said his friend did a similar thing. And the way I would go about it is I'll just go to all of the wrestling classes. I won't worry as much about jiu-jitsu. I'm just gonna go to as many wrestling classes as I can, and I'm just gonna get some naughty submission defense. I'm just gonna try and smash people. So I'm gonna try and
Position
do it.
over submission.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
That's
try
what
and
they
smash.
always say. And I do not. I will say. I will self-admit. I do not follow that as much as I should, because who doesn't like submitting people? So I have
I
to
want
say
to
I'm
make it
guilty of
fun.
that.
I want to make it fun. I actually do want to go out there and have fun. I don't want to make it just trying to beat the next position. I wouldn't see that as fun. That would just be
No, me
transactional
either. I mean,
competing. But I do understand that if I can get solid wrestling classes in, then I'm going to have a good advantage over a lot of white belts who are not going to be able to or not going to know how to wrestle. And then if I'm
that
just
is absolutely me.
if
Can I just put that out there? I'm a pull guard merchant. Honestly, my stand-up is like, when I say it's non-existent, I'm not even joking. I hate doing it, which is my fault. I need to get better at that, and I need to put myself in those uncomfortable positions, because I will admit fully that I won't shy away from that. I just hate stand-up and I neglected it. So I would get smoked on the stand-up. So I am a unashamed pulling guard merchant. Um, So yeah, I'm not one for wrestling in particular, but if that's a game plan you want to go with, it's a good one.
I don't think
But
it's
I
a
think
game
I've
plan.
heard
I
a
think
lot.
it's logic. Think about it. It's just logic. How can I get the closest unfair advantage coming into jiu-jitsu later than anyone else?
Well, so what define that though? Because if you want the good stand up, are you saying you want to get the takedown,
No,
or
I'm
is
just
it
saying if I can get a good conditioning first and foremost and understanding positionally and work rate and hustle of the pace of wrestling, if I can get those factors in, then just adding on to basic knowledge that I have already, and then if I can just add on some decent defensive positions more so, and just a couple of basic submissions like good setups, a
straight
few
into an Americana? Look,
nuances.
takedown into like side into half guard or side control, and work to side control, and then just get an
Yeah,
Americana. That's just what I would do if I was you.
this is what I'm saying. Just work to just submissions from side control and mount, and just try and smash people. Like not try and play jiu-jitsu with white belts. Just try and be just going and
Work to your advantages. That's what
yeah.
you should always do. That's what I
I
do.
don't know what
I know
advantages
what
I
works for
have though.
me.
That's the truth. I've never done it, so I could be really bad at one thing, and I could have a particular. That's the strange thing about jiu-jitsu, right? Is everyone seems to have a small detail or
Their
small
thing
wrinkle, which is
that you
their
have
thing,
over everyone
and I
else.
wonder
It's
what
and
my
whether
thing
that,
is.
yeah,
What's my thing?
that's the beauty of it. You'll do. That's why. That's the thing that was so exciting for me.
Yeah.
First, like year of doing it. Really, is just.
What's your thing?
You just love discovering what you're like. Oh, this is my thing.
Yeah.
I thing is that's also a negative, because you get too obsessed with just that
Mm.
one thing, and you're too scared to really delve into other aspects. Which I also admit
What do you enjoy the
I fully
most? What's your
do, and that's
thing?
part of the journey.
You're gonna say
It's triangles.
triangles,
It's
yeah.
always triangles, man. Of course it is. I have probably landed in sparring the triangle. Probably about eight. I reckon I generally say probably about 80% of my submissions are triangles, whether they're mounted
80%.
or in guard.
Why
No,
do
I'm
you
not even
think that you
joking.
get it so much? This is in gi,
I
I'm
don't know.
guessing.
I'm just no. I don't train gi.
Oh,
No
you
gi
don't?
only.
I thought
No,
you
I
did.
only train no gi. Nah, man. Only
Oh,
train no gi.
oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I thought you was completely the
never felt in
opposite.
a gi. Never felt in a gi in my life.
Oh, I did not know that.
All no gi, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
fair. So why do you think
Um,
that you get that?
I don't know. I think it was always just when I learnt the technique. It was something that it was one of the few ones that really came to me very quickly, and also I love without sounding psychotic. I just love the feeling of it. I love that when you lock up a triangle. It's like
The legs are the
there's a
most
lot of
powerful
stages to
thing,
setting
right?
up, and then when the moment it sort of slots into place, when you lock up the legs,
Yeah,
and then
it is nice
everything
feeling.
falls into
Yeah,
place. It's the
yeah.
best, and it plays into how I like to play. I learn. I just like playing in guard. Because I'm a bit more flexible, a bit more mobile. Because I usually roll with heavier guys, obviously. So I don't know. You just
Once you
fall in
can
love with it a
hook
little bit.
that leg, once you can hook that leg and
Oh, mate,
then
that's the
really
best.
get in there, that is a nice
When you hook
feeling. Yeah,
under,
that is a nice
pivot,
feeling.
and then you're like side on with them, and it's over. And I love it. And I don't really have that affinity with a lot of other submissions. Like I'm not really one for, not just because I'm not as good at top pressure, because I'm a smaller guy, but I'm not really one for arm lock submissions and stuff like Kimura's Americanas, arm bars in particular. I like arm bars from bottom like in guard, but I'm not really one for rolling into an armbar from mount or side control and stuff like that. It's just not really as part of my game plan. And maybe it should be. It should be. I think it's important to get more well rounded in that regard, but it's just something about triangles, man. And you'll learn to, and it's not really a way of really describing it in a lot of ways why you love doing a certain submission so much, but it's something you'll learn very quickly what you enjoy the most in terms of your game plan. That becomes your like primary directive
I
in
quite
any
enjoy.
spar.
It's funny you say that as well, because obviously I've only done a very small amount, but whenever I've found myself doing it, I've always found that same joy. To be perfectly honest, just with the triangle, I don't really know what it is.
There's something about it,
I
man.
think it's
It is.
probably because the people I've trained with, if I start standing, I can't wrestle down with them. So I would have to just start on the floor essentially, and I can't even go into their guard and start passing because I don't know how to do that well enough. But I know how
My
to.
guard passing abilities are not.
I know
stellar.
how to do some basic submissions off my back, and I've got longish legs, and I kind of like playing about with the legs and sort of fishing and whatnot. I'm not going to start rolling for knee bars,
Yeah.
but I like.
Best strategy. It's the basic one against people who don't have much experience, like who are white belts, like similar experience to you, because they're not as a lot of them aren't. Me in particular, you don't not as defensively responsible and aware because you learn that becomes naturally, and with a lot of practice. And I'm not there personally, but I've learned to get better at it. Just best strategy. Just if you're attacking the triangle from the right side, just overhook with your left arm, get the overhook, and then just wrist control with. I'm trying to imagine this. I know it sounds weird. So if you're on your back, overhook their right arm with your left. You just control that, and then right arm wrist control, and then you create that big. Use the wrist, grab the wrist, create as much space as possible, and then you just fish the leg over, and then you
Paul
just work.
Craig
And then
style.
it's just about pretty much exactly like the Krylov submission. That's the way I'd probably describe my routine for it in terms of generally
Do
getting
you get
one.
that in mount?
So if I get it in mount, you tend to once you get the leg over, you roll straight onto your back. It's quite an awkward one. It is doable to finish straight into from the mount, but it's quite an awkward one.
Do you
Just
get it from mount a
positionally.
lot?
Yeah. Not obviously not as much as I do from guard, but yeah, I get it from mount a fair bit. And then you just roll onto your back from there.
I have been enjoying going to the jiu-jitsu sessions at Top Team a lot more. I
like a good mount.
I enjoy going there because I learn a lot in the details when they give when they do the breakdowns at the start of the session of what they're going through. I always learn a lot. So, and I always have the film of the breakdowns, so I can always go back and watch it as well.
I have to send that to
me. And I've got the perfect close-ups. So I've got some really nice. What was they working on? They was working on some DOS, some layers to a DOS this week.
I don't get them as often. I want to get them more often than I do because I love it. It's such
some nice details to this one as well.
Yeah, it's a very fine-tuned submission. It's the same with off the top of my head, my mind's just blanked. Arm triangle. That's it. Arms very similar to in the sense of the same with the DOS and arm triangle. The margins for error are very much thinner than something like a rear naked choke. Or a triangle. I think because if you don't, especially an arm triangle, actually, if you don't get the exact things that you need to do right, you're not getting the submission. It might be uncomfortable as hell for the other person, but you're probably not going to get the tap. But it's kind of the same with DARS. Locking up a DARS is a bit of an art, and one that I'm not perfected at. I'll admit that. Of course, I haven't. I'm still so early in this game. But I love a good DARS. There's also a similar one. A lot of people go. You can actually catch them because you need the arm in for the DARS, right? You fish underneath. Under the armpit, but you can actually same thing. I think Tyron Woodley did it. Bravo choke. I believe it's a Bravo choke, maybe a ninja choke. It's basically the same thing, but you just don't have the arm in. You just go straight on the neck, and you just go for it on the neck. So if they're on their side, you just shoot straight on the neck and go for it. And you can get it from there. I've surprised myself how effective that's actually kind of been. Experienced guys are obviously going to be able to know how to deal with it, but it's a sneaky one.
What we got next week with the fights?
Fight night is actually. I'll just drag it over here.
I know
it's
what
actually kind of fun.
We've got Fitzeev and Gamrot, and it's the worst poster of all time.
I haven't seen it. I'm going to look at it. Live reaction right now.
I don't understand it. Doesn't make sense.
What, yeah, no, I'm with you there. What is that?
What sense does that make?
I could do that in 5 minutes. I'll try and visualize it. It's basically just a grey background with some text in the middle, and their head's just with the backgrounds removed, stuck together, which is like most UFC posters. It just looks like it's clearly had way less effort put into it. Oh, you got everyone on audio is going to be so confused what they're looking at right now. Will is currently holding a lightsaber. That is so loud. I've actually got one. I've got mine in the corner there. I'm not going to reach over and get it. I don't know where the charger
Is it as good as my one?
No, it's not. You've got the proper cool one with the proper like LEDs and all that. Mine's pretty basic.
Do you know how robust
cool.
it is? It's designed for actual fighting.
They're strong, aren't they? Yeah, you can absolutely whack them. Audio listeners absolutely have no idea what's going on.
It's pretty robust.
They're pretty cool.
Let me turn it off because it's quite loud.
Yeah,
it's very loud and it's very bright as well.
You could bring one into the octagon. I think you'd probably become a champion pretty quickly. It's
so loud.
Who needs jiu-jitsu when you got a lightsaber?
But I use it as shin conditioning. I've just been smacking my shins.
That is only you would do that.
I've been smacking my shins.
I don't know anyone else that would use a lightsaber as shin conditioning.
Because they're meant for battle. They're meant for genuine battle.
Yeah, you can absolutely whack them.
Yeah, I didn't know this. It's kind of crazy. It's very new to me. It's a very new world to me. The lightsaber.
You want to give the backstory to why you've got a lightsaber because
that's a fair
this
point.
This does tie into MMA. If
that's
not
a fair
very
point.
Loosely.
Yeah, so
it does tie in.
There's a company called Padawan Outpost, and they're one of Nathaniel's sponsors. But
Nathaniel Wood.
Sorry, that I've spoke to UFC a couple of times, and I went to their office this week, sat down, recorded a conversation with them, spoke about a few things, and they gave me one of the lightsabers. And I've never been one for sci-fi, but these things are really cool. Really cool, actually.
Are cool. Yeah,
I'm enjoying
maybe you should get into sci-fi.
Way more than no.
I'm not with you. We said this. We had a discussion about film.
I just watch.
Will doesn't like sci-fi movies apparently.
I don't read fiction.
Be a kid for a little bit, man. Come on.
I was a kid, and I didn't like it when I was a kid.
Nah.
That's what people used to tell me when I was a kid. It's been like, why don't you just be like a kid? Oh, I don't like it.
Well, it's not even that, but like, what? You're not letting your imagination just a little bit.
But this is the thing, right? This is the common. Let's play this out. Right?
Okay. All right.
I don't understand why imagination can only be. It's.
You're about to go on an absolute tirade here.
No, it's just for me personally, everyone's different, right? For me personally, I find more value from watching something which speaks to me on a level that I can emotionally connect with someone's process or journey or story.
Well, I don't think you can't do that in fiction.
A real life scenario. Just for me personally.
All right.
I just think there's so many things in this world that there's incredible stories, incredible journeys, incredible processes, people, all of these different types of things. There's things happening that are unfathomable, unimaginable to our mind right now. Every single day are happening. We could go to the Amazon rainforest and see a species no one's ever seen ever before. So there's just never been a thirst or a need for me necessarily to always really want to go to the land of Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
Star Wars, I understand. I think
and
Star
things
Wars
of that
is
nature.
Pretty crap.
And it's not that I hate it, and I actually appreciate that why there's a community and a sort of cult-like following around it, the design, the sets. There's a lot of skill and a lot of storytelling involved. I understand that and appreciate that. Just from an entertainment, it just does absolutely below nothing for me. I can't explain to you.
That's interesting.
It's like, I was going to say something, but that would probably be inappropriate. It just doesn't do anything for me whatsoever. That's all I can say.
But do you not see that you can...
I see.
You know,
I see why people like it.
Do you not see the emotional value you get out of it, the way you're describing it in these real films based off real situations, etc., etc.? Do you not feel that you can't get that
I do.
from the emotions and the themes of these of certain characters,
100%.
etc.
I
and
do
whatnot.
believe that you can. 100%.
So why are you so like completely against
Because
it? If you know what I mean.
because in truth, I thought about it this week. When you asked me this question, I really thought about it because
Oh, mate, you're having an existential
no,
moment.
because you made me think about
Necessary.
it. Why do I feel like that? I've always felt like that. Why do I feel like that? And I kind of kept coming back to the point of I think that there are things that are achievable in this world that don't seem achievable or don't seem plausible or imaginable or are crazy or may seem outlandish. So much so that my mind and attention has always gone to that rather than exterior of an actual fiction world, if that makes sense. It's almost like I blurred the lines between fiction and real life a little bit. It's hard to
Okay.
explain. I don't see, for me personally, it's not an exterior thing. I know why other people enjoy it. Just for me personally, I've never felt the need to exit this imagination, to go into this unknown
Okay.
sort of
That's a
realm,
better way of putting it. Yeah.
to experience these different emotions or these different feelings or these different thought patterns or these different levels of inspiration or this different level of creativity or wonder or mystery. I've never needed to go outside of actual reality, if that makes sense, to feel
No,
that.
that makes sense. I can
It's
understand
always
it.
felt
That's a better way of putting
grand
it.
in real life to me anyway. So I've never needed to go outside of that bubble to get that grandeur of imagination, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I can get that. I think it's
That's probably
pretty
the
clear why you're a fan. It's clear why you're a fan of MMA.
why.
I think that. Well, no, it's about as real as it can get, isn't it? That's about as deeply thematic and personal as a as a real world
It's funny you say that
situation
because
can
that's what
be.
it is. Like that's what I keep coming back to is things that I enjoy is I'm learning authenticity in its very rawest form. Whether it's in sport, whether it's in documentation form of what I watch, or whether it's someone's life. I've always found the interest for me and that escapism, if you like, that fascination, that imagination has always actually come from me going into other people's world, if that makes sense, and seeing a whole new
Okay.
world in their mind. Rather than going to this exterior science fiction world, if this makes sense, this is a better way for me to explain it. I've always gone into the person's mind. If I'm watching a documentary on Lionel Messi, it's a sci-fi film for me. It's a fiction for me because I am going into the mind, the universe, the creative space of Lionel Messi and viewing everything from that perspective. So now it is almost like a fiction film and it is this exterior mystique reality, but it's still within the confines of real life, which I can still relate back to my own life, if that makes sense. Is that a bit clearer?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I will give you the plaudits there. I think I'm not. I still don't agree.
I
I
don't
think
think it's an
fiction's great. I
agree
think
thing. I don't think it's
something
an
to explore.
agree.
But no. But I can understand it. Right. I get your perspective.
Yeah.
I think that's. Yeah. That's. I mean. But what do you think spurs that? Do you know what I mean? Where did that come from? Do you know what I mean? Like, well, is it because obviously it's something as a kid, isn't it? It's like in terms of you grow up and
I think
that
when
it's
I was
just
just
spawn of where your
7 years
environment, isn't it?
old, 6 years old, young, I remember being really young, 8 years of age. And I just remember being, I know this is going to sound weird, and I think I've said it before, but I know it sounds a little bit weird. I just remember being on the playground and just standing in the corner and we were playing football. And I just had this sort of 10-second, 20-second thought where I just looked out onto the playground. I just remember thinking, I don't feel like other children are having the same internal conversation that I'm currently having with myself. And I didn't think I was crazy or I was some genius or and it was nothing that extreme. It wasn't anything really too crazy. But I do just remember having an internal chatter that I didn't feel was typical or I didn't feel was sort of normal.
Okay.
And I was just I've always felt like I've been quite socially aware, if that makes sense. Not perfect, not a socially perfect human being,
Yeah,
but
no, no,
just
no.
a little bit more socially aware. I think my IQ isn't necessarily the highest. I'm not going to go and ace mathematical tests and science. I'm
Neither
just
am I.
not going to do that necessarily.
Absolutely
I'm
not.
fairly intelligent, but I'm just not going to ace those particular things. But I think if it was EQ, I think if it was emotional intelligence, I think that's a lot higher for me than my IQ is, if that makes sense. So I always just feel that's why I probably leaned into that side of things a little bit more, was more people or listening to people's stories or lives. And I got sort
Yeah.
of lost and enchanted in that, if it made sense, and got caught up in their stories and their emotions and their lives. And that spun stories to me of, again, sort of fiction. So I think from quite a young age, I was quite interested in that. I remember watching a lot of documentaries, a lot of food programs, a lot of traveling programs, a lot of just very
Yeah.
raw camera person story and nothing really in
Yeah, it
between.
was clearly, yeah, then that clearly stems from that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is that something you ever explored like professionally? Would you be, or if not, would you do that?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think there's a lot to learn about the psyche and the mental side of things
how
for
do you mean,
anybody
sorry?
and for
How do
their
you mean?
own,
Have I explored that professionally?
like therapy or counseling. I don't know.
No,
Is that something you've ever considered or you would do?
I've always liked the idea of it. I've always thought I'm a personal trainer. So mental therapy to me should be the most obvious form of self-care, really, because
I think it's.
I'm a
I think
personal
everybody
trainer,
should
so I
try
take
it.
that side of physical things for people. And health is a triangle. It's social, physical, and
Mental.
mental, of course. So if a PT is physical, then social can be obviously friendships and relationships and things of that nature. But then obviously mental is going to be things like therapists and people of that nature. And I always look at it like driving instructors. I don't think it's necessary to have a driving instructor for your whole life, but you have 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it may be. You
Yeah,
gain
you get valuable
you
information
get
out
the
of that you keep
information,
for a
you
long
get the
time.
structures, you get the fundamentals, you get the frameworks. You're given that information, then you build off that and you take it yourself. And I think that's what therapy should be. And I think when the more people realize it like that, and the same with
It's a stigma around it that it's not that. Everyone
yeah,
thinks it's some sort of thing that, and for some people in extreme cases it can be like that. But I don't think, like speaking personally, it was something that I've done and it's done now. Do you know what I
is
mean?
it
Like I
frameworks? Do you think that's the biggest?
no, that's a perfect. That's a really good way. I'm really sort of agreeing with that. There, I can visualize it like that too. It's used as it was about. I did it for. I think I did it for probably 8 months.
Okay, that's a good
So
amount of
I
time.
did it for 6 7 months. I think maybe a bit less than that. About August to June, I think. So a bit more than that.
How do
Actually, I
you
don't know.
build the
I don't know the
relationship
math
with a
there.
person? How do you pick the person that you want to have those conversations with, though?
Um, I don't know. It comes someone if they're good at what they do, then it comes
Did
very
that come straight
easily.
away?
Yeah, straight away. Like it's not even. It was very easy. It's not something that becomes uncomfortable or anything,
How does
and
that transaction go? Well, you sit down. How does that play out?
it's basically like I mean, I did all mine online.
Right. Okay.
But he basically just it's an hour of just exploring the mind. That's
Mm,
probably the best way I'd put it.
just
It's not the
taking a
same as just like
walk. You're
talking and
just taking a
ranting.
walk.
Yeah, something like that. And I'd be happy to delve into the real nitty gritty of it at some point in the future. Like, I mean, I'm really open about all that stuff anyway, so I don't really care. But just maybe off. I mean, we can talk about another episode or not. I don't know. But it was something for me that I is invaluable, and it was only last year. This year I stopped finished it this year, so it was something that I really realized I needed to do it
Did you take
like
lessons
quite
from
late.
that you carry on in life day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have discovered doing YouTube.
Mm.
I'm pretty firm on that. I mean, maybe I would have done inevitably, but I think it just makes you realize a lot of things about yourself, and that was what I think that springboarded me into discovering that I could do something with YouTube and starting that as a
What was
result.
it that you took away that
Um,
made you realize that?
it was a case of just discovering the way I operate and the way like what would work for me long term as in terms of mentally accompanying what I would do for a career. So like what would work, what characteristics of working work for me the best in
Mm.
terms of, career wise. And I realized that doing something for me where I work personally for myself, that's like something that it works mentally for me the best. It fits the bill the best rather than working a 9 to 5 and stuff like that. And it was a lot of discovering about what I wanted to do, because I realized from my degree I didn't want to do that anymore, and I was stuck in a bit of a limbo of like, again, I mean, a lot of people are like that, discovering where they really want to go in their lives. Um, and I think that really helped me find that, which is obviously, eternally grateful for. And it's on top of a whole load of other things. But yeah, it's invaluable. I mean, if you get the chance to do it, I would of course recommend it. It's an invaluable experience.
It's just about, again, I liken it to personal training. There's a lot of personal trainers out there. There's a lot of rubbish personal trainers. There's a lot of
It's the
personal
same, yeah, completely
trainers
the same.
that get paid a good amount of money per hour and are still rubbish. And I know that will be the case in that realm
It
as
is,
well.
yeah.
So financially, I'm hesitant on that side of
I
things
understand,
in the
yeah.
short term, just because of where that isn't. I say it isn't a priority. That's hilarious because it is. It should be a number one priority for
Yeah,
anybody.
mental is
Well
priority, yeah.
well and truly, it should have been
Yeah.
number one
But
priority.
that's a problem though. The fact that it's quite inaccessible and it's quite a thing to do is
But the thing is,
that in itself sucks.
it's not inaccessible. This is what I'm learning because I've given myself that not excuses, not to say, oh right, I'll just won't do anything to help myself because I can't do that. That's not the case at all. But I've thought about it before. Oh, okay, cool. We should maybe try and do a few sessions and whatnot. But then I thought, right, okay, if you can't do that, what can I do? I can read, I can listen, I can YouTube, I can watch, I can work on my breathing and my mobility. And guess what?
Yeah.
You have all the answers more times than not. It's really bloody simple a lot of the times. There'll be a
Yeah,
lot of
that is true.
areas, everyone knows the answers. Everyone knows the answers, but guess what? They want to be told the answers because then they actually have a tangible result and then they actually can't put it off any longer. But if you look in the mirror pretty hard, you'll know, yeah, my diet's crap. I don't sleep well. My relationships with my friends and family is not good. All of these factors that are not necessarily easy to work on, but will improve where you are at mentally. Because realistically, when you look at it and you feel like you're in a slump or a lull and the weather is a bit grey and you start thinking about it and you start looking at your life and you think, well, I've been exercising less, eating worse, sleeping worse, my work's not been as good, all of these different things. And you start thinking, well, it's obvious where the issues are coming from. So it's not like that's going to
Mm.
solve everything. It's not going to fix it, but that's going to make you 100 times better to perform at least a little bit more better. So, I don't know. I'm waffling, but
Something to explore maybe. If you ever get the chance. I think if it ever comes to you, that I think it takes a lot for most people, me in particular, it always takes until it's the worst, the absolute, rock bottom until you realize you really need to do it. And I think pretty much everybody is like that. But in a way, that is the silver lining. If you do get that to that low, that level of that big of a low, mentally, it tends to be the point where you realize you got to do something about it, and that was how it was for me. So, um, yeah,
didn't
I
think we were
obviously
going to go
I keep
there.
saying the same thing. No, neither. But it's a discussion. I think it's a good discussion, and it's one that a lot of people should have more. I think, and obviously we're in a time where that's becoming more. It's more acceptable to talk about these things than as it should be. I think, particularly, I don't want to get back, compare it to fighting in terms of, I don't want to have a whole rant and conversation about that, but there is a point there to be made. Um, it's even more paramount in that realm and that career to be, upfront and honest with yourself about mental health and all that stuff. But with that, we can talk about that for another hour in another episode, I'm sure. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I think
and I
that's
don't want to.
unless you know another point, I think that's a good place to leave it there. So this
Sure.
has been Casuals Encounters with myself and Will from Casuals Corner MMA. I don't know if this is going out on today, on the Sunday or the Monday. I don't know if which week we agreed
Sunday.
we were going to change it. Today, it's coming out today. This Sunday, this evening. You should see it out tonight. Um, yeah, thank you for listening. See you every Sunday now. We're changing. I will update that. Yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.